Okay, now the first thing I'm going to want to do is get my picture laid out. So I'll just do a quick sketch, and I'll use paint to do that sketch, not a pencil. I'm going to put the horizon above center. So that just means that I'm framing this picture like maybe the viewer is looking down just a little bit and seeing more water than sky. So I'll put the horizon right here. And my basic shape I'm going to build these waves with, well, let's try to go better than that. It's like an open smile, more level on the top. It arcs down in the middle and pointed on both ends. That's the shape that I want to keep reproducing. So to make my waves, I'm going to try to build larger shapes that are just like this out of many brush strokes that are that shape. I like to start at the point of a wave and then just work down the slope. So I'll go like this, I'll go coming down the slope of the wave. Now watch this, I'll go over to the other side. This is going to be one of those shapes. It's going to be one of those open smile kind of shapes. But instead of going right across the middle here, I'll go over to this side while there's still more of the reflection color in my brush. Because I know that it's going to look better if the middle of this shape is not as bright as the ends. And that is just because of the natural shape of waves and how the slope up to the point is where it captures the most reflection. So if I'm able to capture that, then my waves will look a lot more realistic, which is what I'm going for. Now to get down in here, I'm going to try adding some of my sand color in there. The foreground sand, I want to take up a high percentage of this, since there's kind of an exponential decrease of space used to represent distance as you get closer to the horizon. Down here it should be a real high percentage then of the canvas that has the sand color in it, because most of this is the foreground. Now the thing is, I know that I can come back and redo any of these sections, just section at a time. So there's no pressure to get it right the first time for me. Okay, so that's how I do the little waves, and the way that I paint waves in any of my water scenes is just by trying to master that stroke, that shape. You know, if a painter was a ninja, then you know that stroke is the secret weapon. I'm gonna do those same little reflection strokes, just continuing right from where I left off, right on that line. And I'm using very short strokes, and I think that I want to try to do a little bit more. They're not as stretched out and long. I want them to look like they're getting pulled upward now. So I'm doing short strokes, and I'm kind of doing a circular motion with my hand so that my brush, you know, comes closer to the canvas in the middle of my stroke movement. And that makes the middle of that stroke shape fatter. Right across the middle. You can see I've done all different orders of this application. You know, I did the blue first and then added the green. I'm doing the green first and adding the blue. I did the white first and then added the green then the white. You know, I think the order is not so important as just knowing where you're trying to get the end result. Now this is going to be real dark, so by the time I get this deep water color mixed all into it, so I'm going to plan on adding more white. It's just a little bit overly green. I don't want it to look like antifreeze, even though that would be a cool look. This is something to watch out for in any painting, really, is things that maybe seem overly geometric and predictable. This diagonal line just is really consistent, just a diagonal line right through a curved wave. I mean, I definitely think that could happen naturally. It just doesn't make for the nicest looking shape. So I'm gonna bring this, you know, what's a slightly lower part of the wave already, I'm gonna bring it down even lower just for the sake of kind of randomizing that wave a little bit. I like to get the more, as I said, geometric or the more recognizable patterns of my picture in place, and then add a little chaos to make it look more natural. You know, the wave is this layer of water, and so you'll see just like a bubble can be seen underwater. Well, the tube of air that is underneath this curl can be seen from above the wave. So I'll show you what that looks like. It just has a white reflection on top of it, but the effect of it is there's dark on top of light, where you wouldn't really expect that for a solid object. But if you're able to get it in a wave, it makes it look, a lot more natural and watery. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is add some foam on my beach and on the surface of the water too. The color that I want to use for that is my reflection color plus white, because I don't want the foam to be the brightest thing in the picture, so obviously if I made it pure white, it would be the brightest thing in there. So I also want it to be visible on all of this water here, and if I make it if I make it the same color as the rest of my reflection, then I'm not going to see it very much here. So I'm going to add white to my reflection color in order to put it in between my bright white and my existing reflection. I want to put a very particular kind of shape in perspective. I'm going to have little squiggles that are going slightly more vertical. So let's say that this is just a little section of foam that's drifting down the face of this wave. And then when it goes to the back side of the wave, I just want some kind, it doesn't matter what direction, but some kind of a visible bend in a different direction that's a little more horizontal. So you see that shape I made, that's more horizontal. And then when I get to the next face, I'll go more vertical. Now it can just be a tiny bit. I really don't want to put long shapes going this way, because it represents so much distance, just like I've talked about before. Now with these little sections of foam, what you have is wherever there's any kind of a little corner on this, I'll want to kind of stretch that out. I'll have them pointing toward another corner or end of another piece of foam. I want them to look like they're getting pulled and stretched up the face of that wave. Wherever I'm going vertically, I'm going to make it skinny because it's getting stretched, like a piece of bubble gum. But, then wherever I have space going this way, like this one, I've got fatter shapes for anything going left to right. But in the end, I'm kind of doing it by feel, and I'm just looking for if it helps to. If it goes along with the shape of my wave. If it starts looking kind of weird, like it's redefining the shape as something I don't want it to be, then I might get rid of that spot. So now what I'm doing is going through and just trying to fine-tune my waves, because it's fun and I like to do that. It's not because it's necessary for this picture. The reason a wave is dark on the face is because it's higher, and the angle of it comes more like this in relationship to your vision. So a lower wave doesn't have that same angle, therefore it shouldn't be darker. These waves are going to look natural, more natural, if I chop off these long pointed ends that are on the faces of the waves. And the faces are the dark areas. So look at this one, for example. See this long section that goes right here? So this is the area that I'm going to hit with that transition color that I just made. So I'm going to use this color, and I'm just going to go through here, and I'm going to take off the long pointed ends, and then just do kind of a very small outline around the edge of my waves that I want to look more natural. I can use this color to redefine the shape a little bit better, but for the most part, I'm just outlining the wave and taking off the long corners so that it's just that middle of the highest area that has my darkest underwater color on it. Now something else you can do, those little squiggly lines, the caustics they call it, where the light gets distorted and turns into those little squiggles that you see at the bottom of swimming pools in the sun. So to do that, I'll just add pure white to my underwater mix right here. That's mostly the gray. And little bit of that turquoise, that blue-green mix. Right in between the reflection and the face of the wave, I'm going to put bright little dots that would be the sun reflecting on the wave. So what's happening is every part of the water reflects to some degree. Just the darkest area is the face, but a bright sun, there's no way to represent that brightness difference, the difference between the brightness of the sun and the sky reflecting on the water. I can put white on the backside if the sun was on the backside of the sky, but it wouldn't show up. You wouldn't see it. So to show that the sun is much brighter than everything else, I just strategically locate the reflection closer to the face of the wave. So you can see that it's clearly a brighter, wider area than the rest. But I want to be consistent, and I want to put those little white dots in the same place on each wave. So I can do it in here too. See, just at the top, right where that darker area is on the top of a wave.